get this party going. Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle from Consolidated Planning Group. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm glad that you're here with us. We have got a fantastic and important topic today. Marianne Hughes is here to talk about making marriage work as a special needs parent. Unfortunately, in this industry and in this community, we do see a lot of divorce happening. And it's important to do what's best for the kids and best for yourselves as a family. And Marianne can help you get through some of that. So Nicole Crowder has helped us draw this audience together. So I want to give a shout out to her. She is the Special Education Parent Liaison at the Parent Resource Center in Conroe ISD. And Aurora is here as well. She's a bilingual special ed parent liaison. So if you have any questions, specifically if you're in Conroe ISD, we've got Nicole and Aurora here for you. And then, like I said, I'm Michelle from Consolidated Planning Group. I'll be hosting today. I will be keeping an eye on the chat box and asking Marianne any questions as she is going through her presentation. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. We're in webinar mode, so we cannot hear you or see you, but we know you're out there. And if you have any questions or comments, you can feel free to put those in the chat box. That way we can get your questions answered without having too much, background noise or anything like that. We always record our webinars, and I will be sending, well, not I, Consolidated Planning Group will be sending out that webinar later on today to whatever email address that you registered with. So check that email address. It might go to your spam. I'm not sure, but we'll send you the video link. The first thing I want to talk to you about is who is Consolidated Planning Group and why even listen to us? Why do we do all these webinars? Well, we are first and foremost a holistic financial planning firm. We're independent. We are local. We're here in just outside of Houston. We serve families, though, all across the United States. We can help anyone with a special needs child anywhere. So feel free to share these videos, share our YouTube channel with any family or friends that you might know who have a loved one with a disability. This is not something that we do once in a while or something that, we can do in addition to all of our other special needs. All of our other financial planning services. Helping families with special needs kiddos is really what we do every single day. Day in and day out, almost all of our clients have an individual in their life that they care for who has some kind of intellectual or developmental disability. We are truly the experts in this area. We've been doing this for 30 years. We are members of the Special Needs Planning Academy. We are National Social Security advisors. And I recently, although I haven't updated the slides yet, I have earned the Chartered Special Needs Consultant designation from the American College of Financial Planning. So I do have that extra certification. We do this because we want to be a resource for you. The owner of our company has 2 special needs kids, and when she was going through all of this with her own children, she said, this is so complicated and there's so much that people need to know. And there's a lot of misinformation and noise out there. So what we try to do is to be an advocate and to educate you to make sure that you know what you need to do and how important it is to set things up correctly. We help families with protection plans for their futures, lifetime care plans for their loved ones, transition planning, that time between high school and the real world where you're looking at what happens next, or the time when they're turning 18 years old and now their financial rules and regulations around Medicaid and SSI have changed, what happens there. And then there's also the transition planning that comes when your child is getting ready to move out of your home into whatever comes next for them, whether that be a residential community or a group home or an educational program outside of your home. So there's a lot of moving parts. We can help make sure that your money is in the right buckets in terms of, you can only have a certain amount of money in their bank accounts. So how can you use an ABLE plan or a special needs trust to make sure that things are set up so that it does not take away from the benefits they deserve? Um, Fewer than 0.1% of all the financial advisors in the United States, fewer than 0.1% of them focus on special needs planning like we do. Like out of 263,000 financial advisors, fewer than 200 can understand the nuances of special needs planning and really focus on that like we do. So you are in the right place when you're here with us at Consolidated Planning Group. A couple of things, when you're thinking about getting started in the planning process, we want to tell you that people say sometimes, oh, I don't know if it's the right time. My child is just a baby, or my child is in high school, or, oh, they're just 20, or, oh, I'm young, I don't have to worry about planning for the future. The time to plan, the time to start planning for your loved one is right now. It doesn't matter if they're a baby or a child, toddler, middle school, high school, even if they're adults. If you have not gotten this stuff in order yet, you really need to get going, because the sooner you start planning, first of all, the less expensive things are going to be, right? Costs are going up. Inflation raises costs every day. And not only that, but your age and your health has an effect on some of the planning stuff that we do, like life insurance. So life insurance is never going to be cheaper than when you're young and healthy. We want you to think about those things now. Plus, it will help you sleep better at night when you know what's going to happen in your future. And it helps you be able to have a longer time period to make smaller adjustments rather than uh, planning towards the end of your life, and then it's too late to make any really good big changes. It's a lot more painful if you wait. So we want you to consider post-high school educational options, vocational options, and residential options. Check and see what is available near you, and if there are waiting lists. We want you to tour the communities and opportunities for your child, and make sure that if they have a waiting list, you get on that waiting list. Give yourself the right to say no when your name comes up. And finally, we always want to tell parents just to be super careful when you think, oh, you know, my son Jacob has a disability. His sister is just going to take care of him when I'm gone. It'll be fine. She'll take care of him. She loves him. Well, they might both say that that's fine right now, but in the future, when older sister has her own job and her own family and her own thing going on, she might see taking care of her brother as an obligation that she doesn't really want. And brother, he might feel like all this time he's had this loving sister and friend, and now she's trying to step into the role of caregiver and be in charge. And he might feel a sense of resentment, like you're not my mom type of feeling. So just be careful when you're looking at that dynamic within your family of who will take care of your loved one. Brothers and sisters just aren't always the best option. So I do have some more slides at the end to talk a little bit more about the financial side of things, but I want to turn this over to Mary Ann. She is here to speak with us about how to try to make marriage work and avoid some of the stressors and the things that we see families going through when they have a loved one with a disability. So I will turn it over to Mary Ann. Like I said, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat box. I am also making sure that I'm watching that, and I'm putting all of our contact information in there for you so that if you want to contact us, you certainly can. All right, Mary Ann, please tell us about you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's an honor to be here today to present to you and share about making marriage work as a special needs parent. You might have heard some of these scary statistics out there that about 80% of families that have a child with special needs go through divorce. Even more staggering percentage I saw recently is that 87% of parents with a child on the autism spectrum get divorced by the time they're 21. Those are huge numbers. And some people may debate these numbers, but the fact remains that the typical divorce rate is 50%. And from our experience and people that you may know, you've probably seen that it's probably higher than half the families out there going through divorce, whether the child is young or whether it happens when their kids are older, like it did in my situation. And so I'm here to share some hope and some strategies for you to be in that 20% that makes it. And if you're already working on these things, there's some more things that we can talk about. And if you're if you're in the other percentage where you're having some struggles, then happy to share some strategies to make that a better experience as well. Okay. And so my journey led me to work in this field. It's not like one day I decided I'm going to be a divorce coach. So I went through my own divorce several years ago, and through that process really learned so much and want to give back now to the community in terms of things that I learned, things that maybe I could have done differently in my marriage and my divorce to be able to help other people when they're facing challenges. And so, why is a divorce coach giving marriage presentation? So as a mom of 2 kids on the autism spectrum, opposite ends of the spectrum, I was married for 21 years. So I do have a lot of experience with marriage and what it took to at least survive that long, but also working with families that reach out to me. I've seen a lot of things that have worked well for them and things that can maybe do better. They can implement in their family. So I'm here to share some of those things with you today. And I am a believer in marriage. It's not like I'm trying to advocate for divorce. That's not my intent. My intent is to help people who are facing some challenges and help them get through it in the best way possible. I never thought I'd get divorced. It wasn't something that was ever on my horizon until one day it did happen to me. I remember when I was early in my marriage and early in when my kids were recently diagnosed, I went to a seminar at a church on this topic about how things you can do to keep your marriage alive and fun things to do. And so they talk about this statistics. I'm like, oh, this will never happen to me, and I'll never be one of those. And it's not something on that would ever happen. Well, sadly, these things do happen, even though that's not our intention. We don't go into marriage thinking we're going to get divorced, but it is the reality. And so we want to, think about marriage as something intentional that we can maybe work on so that we avoid being in that situation. And so, So if we don't work on a marriage, we don't want to end up, in that situation. To people, when I first got married or, heard people talk about marriage, they say, oh, marriage is a lot of work. And I never had that kind of philosophy about it. I was like, oh, if you love each other, then you'll stay together forever. Well, I guess that was a little bit naive. And so I've learned that marriage does take work. Like anything else that's important to you, it does take work and intention. And so, we want to think about that in our daily life and as things happen to us over the course of our marriage. And so we talked about the very high rate of divorce among families who have a child with some sort of disability. It could be chronic illness, it could be a developmental disability, physical disability, whatever it might be. This happen, and there's a lot of reasons for that that we'll get into. But we want to try to work on a marriage so that our kids hopefully don't have to face divorce and what it would mean to them. Some people have had parents get divorced. I was not. That was never my experience. So I have a different view of marriage and what it was going into it and how my kids might relate. And so it was really important to me during my divorce that to focus on my kids and make sure that they had support and the best experience possible. But ideally, you know, if we have a strong marriage and work on it, then our kids won't have to go through that. But we can talk about ways to support the kids, definitely, if that is an issue. And you know, we want to be a role model for our kids. Or well, can you go back a little bit? Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, and then the impact on parents too. Um, you know, divorce can be very stressful, it can be very expensive, and we want to make sure that people maintain a good relationship, whether they're staying married or getting divorced. We want to look at the long term because we'll be parents of our co-parenting our kids, you know, for their lifetime, and so we want to make sure that we go into every day as a you know in our marriage relationship. In a positive way so that we can have the best for ourselves and for our whole family dynamics and situation. And just to share as well, if we don't work on our current issues that maybe led to the divorce or things that affect us in our day-to-day lives, the chances of success in a subsequent marriage are actually decreased. So typically, with a neurotypical regular type situation, there's a 50% divorce rate. But then the second and third marriages are like in the 60s and 70% divorce rate. So, you know, we want to work on our marriage because it's not necessarily greener on the other side. And so, in general, what are some of the reasons that marriages end? I did some research, and these are not any particular order, but there may be a lack of closeness and intimacy. This may not just be physical, it may be how you feel day to day, the bond you feel, how well you can relate. Michelle kind of started out the session saying her husband sent her a cute little meme and inspiration and you know, cheering her on. And so it's nice to have that closeness and know that we can do little things for our spouse that make them feel special. And some people sadly lose that or the desire to do that or remember to do those kind of things. And so
we took
communicate.
a lot of training. We've been married for 25 years.
Yeah, well, that's excellent because sometimes people over time kind of don't think those things are important, but they are, especially you know, if you've been married for a long time, you want to find ways to remain close and remain, you know, have those fun things and fun moments together. And so communication is an issue for a lot of families. Some parents may not know or feel comfortable communicating some hard things. They may have different communication styles and not feel like they're being heard or validated in terms of what they're trying to say. So we want to make sure that we understand how each of us communicates and find better ways to do that. So hopefully we don't feel like we can't communicate with our spouse or feel like they're not listening to us. Infidelity is, you know, it's common and reason why marriages end. It happens a lot inside and outside of you know, special needs situations. But the important thing to consider is if this happens in your situation, is this something that you can work through? A lot of families do work through it and then are stronger afterwards. But sometimes, based on the circumstances, it's not something that we can get past for various reasons. And so that is a reason that marriages may end. We may have over time changes in our compatibility and our values, and financial issues are a big driver as well in any kind of marriage. You may have had you know, similar ideas and approach life in one way when you were young, but maybe over time, experience can change us. And so there's some issues there that sometimes we just are not compatible anymore, even with some work. Now there's domestic abuse, which about 23% of divorce actually is based on that. So it's something to consider. Definitely, we don't want to be in a situation where ourselves or our children are at risk and danger. And domestic abuse can also not be just intimate partner violence. It could be emotional abuse. It could be financial abuse, be all kinds of issues. Just want to raise that to people's attention. They think, you know, it's more of a battered spouse, but it's not always that. It could be take other forms. And just so you know, and October is Domestic Abuse Awareness Month. So just want to put that out there, and I'm happy to share resources if that's an issue for you. And there is help out there just for that as well. But then in addition to all these other reasons, what are some of the reasons that are extra stressors for marriages with a special needs child to suffer? Sometimes you have parents who don't necessarily agree on the disability, how to handle that, and how to help that child. Sometimes there's a issue in terms of the acceptance of the disability. There's a whole grief cycle around having a child with a disability. And sadly, some people never get out of the denial phase or maybe stay in the anger or other phases of that. But until we get to the acceptance phase and really focus on what's best for that child and how to help them, we're going to have some conflict there. And then just a day-to-day stresses and responsibilities of raising a child with a disability. Michelle mentioned so many things that we need to think about and do and plan for the future. And so not just the day-to-day, but also the future planning can definitely take a toll on us in terms of, how do we get through not just today, but this is something that's not going to go away. And so we may have a child with an ongoing condition and challenges that will always be with us. And so that definitely has a lot of stress and burnout effect on parents. And so I share a lot of information in different ways. And one of them is as a contributor to different magazines and different websites and blogs and platforms. And so one article that I wrote back in October 2023, and there's a link there that when you get this presentation, you can read about it, is how to make your relationship work under the pressures of caregiving. More normally, my articles are about divorce and how to get through that, but I thought, okay, let me take a different approach and to help people who are facing some challenges. What can we do? Kind of this presentation to make things better and ensure or support the continuation of our marriage. And so one, as we talked about, is the acceptance of the disability diagnosis. Hopefully you can get both parents on board, participating in therapies, being involved with the school, and just loving that child for who they are. It may not have been the vision you had when you first got married or thought about having kids, but nonetheless, it's our reality, and we just have to make the best of it and love that child for who they are. And every day, my kids surprise me and make me smile. So never regret my situation. Sometimes we have to recognize when a parent needs a break. It can be very stressful, as we talked about, just the day-to-day activities, and sometimes whether one parent is a primary caregiver or the other parent is maybe the financial contributor for the most part to the home, whatever your situation may be, each parent is going to need a break and some downtime, and recognize that whatever they're doing, is taking a toll and can be stressful. So if you've got one parent, both parents are home when and one is constantly taking care of the needs, they need some downtime. So I would definitely promote that, give each other a break. And sometimes when somebody's coming home from a long day at work, they may need some downtime as well. And so it's a kind of a balancing act. Not to say both parents can't work and both be caregivers, but even then we want to have breaks and recognize when we need some time just to relax for ourselves. And even if another parent is not home, then maybe find some outside help, some respite, some sitters, some opportunities for you to have a little bit of time alone and kind of change the dynamics going on in the household. In law, we talked about communicating our needs and feelings. So definitely make an effort at that. Sometimes we feel like that's not important anymore based on the stage of relationship that we're in. We don't think they're going to understand. Maybe we don't know how to express those feelings. So definitely want to recognize that if that's an issue, and there's help out there. There's therapists, there's all kinds of ways to learn about communication strategies and how to better communicate with your spouse. So definitely those are important things to do so that we don't have those other issues that we talked about some other reasons for the breakdown in a marriage. And so we talked a little bit about self-care, and I can tell you from my own experience as well as people I've worked with and spoken to, as a special needs parent, we put ourselves last, our self-care last, thinking it's not really important. I can tell you that it is. I went through many, many years without making time for myself, and it did have a toll on myself and my relationship. And so, know that we can't pour from an empty cup. So we want to do what we can on a daily basis or whenever you have the time to do even little things that are important to you and kind of help replenish your energy. And we sometimes don't spend time with our spouse. We're so focused on our kids and feel like nobody else can step in and take care of them that we're not making one-on-one time with our spouse. And that's such an important thing to do, no matter where you are in your marriage. Even if you have multiple kids and kids with different challenges. I've met so many people who they don't make time for any date night or any time with their spouse alone without kids because they don't feel like they can't find a sitter who will understand how to work with their kids, or they just don't feel comfortable because they haven't done that before. And so I would definitely encourage people to find someone to come in, even if you're at home, so that you can take some time away, go out to dinner, go out with your friends, whatever it needs to be to keep things exciting and kind of take a break from the day-to-day challenges that you might face just taking care of your kids when they're home.
One thing that we used to do that I really enjoyed too, Marianne, was that, you have time for yourself, take yourself out on a date, do some self-care. You have time with your spouse one-on-one. We used to always also, both my husband and I, enjoy having one-on-one dates with our kids. I would spend the evening with one kid and he would spend the evening with the other one, and we would get to know each other a little better. And then maybe a couple weeks later we switch, and that gives you a chance to build those strong bonds with all of your family members and still gives you a little bit of you're away from the rest of the family and all the other noise. You can focus and concentrate and have a good time with just one person at a time.
Right, that's an excellent point. Also, if you have multiple kids, there may be a sibling that doesn't have special needs. So we'll make sure that they're getting special attention as well. Sometimes we tend to focus on the child who may need more help, but definitely the other child, wants to feel that love and support as well. Okay. And so, in addition to my thoughts and my research, I wanted to get feedback from other people in the community who have had a successful long term marriage. And so, I put out this is when I initially did this presentation earlier this year. I put out a Facebook post, and it's still there if you want to look at it and even add your own comments and suggestions about ways to nurture your marriage. And so I got a lot of responses, but these are the common themes that came up. Um, Having good communication with your spouse, and something called a safe word came up, and I thought this was kind of interesting. It just means if you're not in a position, or if it's not the best time for you to have involved discussions about serious topics or whatever it might be, then you need to indicate that. So this is not the right time. We talk about it later, but definitely don't you know um, put it under the rug and not address it, but just say, okay, right now is not the right time. Let's schedule another time to talk about these things. We talked about date nights, but also going on trips. Some people who have never left their kids alone can't even imagine going on a trip for a weekend or a week or even whatever it might be. But I would definitely work up to that, but also look at it as sometimes a family trip. I know when my kids go on vacation, we started when they were younger. I did it before as a married parent. Now I'm able to do it. I built the confidence to now take them on vacation on my own. But the point is, whether you're doing it all together, sometimes being away from home changes the routines. You may not have as many behaviors as maybe when you're at home. They're excited to see something new, even if it's a drive in the car to across town. Sometimes even that breaks up the monotony for the kids and gets them thinking about something different, so they're not focused on on the daily activities at home. And definitely, and sometimes for trips I've taken when I was married as well, we brought a helper with us because it's hard to do alone, and because then you're going to spend most of your time, possibly taking care of the kids on that vacation. So try to find ways that you can enjoy the vacation. Some places have like little, activities, like at a hotel or resort, the special autism ones, and even other ones. If you kind of plan ahead, you can find ways to make that work. I've actually written an article as well about taking cruises with when you have kids with autism and other disabilities. So there's lots of tips there. But even for those, I brought a helper on my last one where I didn't feel like I could do it alone. But now I have more confidence, and my kids maybe don't have as many issues. So that maybe in the next time I'll take a cruise without a helper. But I have taken airplane trips with my kids, just so you know, and that's worked out well. And there's ways to prepare yourself and them for that to do things, whether you're all together or separately, to make it work. And find different opportunities to connect or things that people shared. Maybe it's doing some new activity together, something exciting that you haven't done before. There's all kinds of fun things out there that I know I haven't done yet. The little skydiving thing, I fly, and just whatever excitement you can find to do. It could be something low key as well, like a picnic in the park, a lunch date when kids are at school, whatever it might be. And a lot of people also indicated that having a religious foundation was important to them, having God the center of their marriage and going to church together, praying together. I'm not here to tell people what to believe or how to believe, but know that that's important to a lot of people as a foundation of their marriage and keeping it as such. We talked a little bit about self-awareness and empathy, kind of realizing what you're doing and how you're coming across and how that may affect the other person, but also seeing the other person, what they may be struggling with that day or on an ongoing basis, and trying to understand what's happening to them and how you can support them as well. And sometimes humor, is important. You've got to laugh at yourself and sometimes laugh at your kids too. And even if they do something that maybe not be typical of a typical child, then we have to see that they're making progress in whatever way they are, and just kind of find the positive aspects of that. And then humility in terms of recognizing when we've made a mistake or something, or be able to apologize. Sometimes that's a big thing just right there. A lot of people don't feel like they need to apologize to their spouse or to others. And then but if you do and recognize that, you've maybe could have done something differently, then I think that goes a long way to support the relationship. These are just some of the quotes that people shared about dialoguing. Make sure you set up time for that, a schedule for that, if that's something that works for you. This person had the 4 Ds: dialogue daily, date weekly, depart annually, and the D word isn't discussed. This was somebody who had a religious background, and they have many kids, all kinds of disabilities, some of which were adopted, and different things. So to them, really making sure they had good communication and time for themselves was important as well. Talked about humility, never going to bed angry. Everyone's got a different way of handling that, but definitely we don't want to things to fester, because the more we talk about it, we're wrong, apologize, and forgive. That goes a long way as well. I'm going to be honest, with each other, respect each other's boundaries. Sometimes that becomes an issue. Some people lose sight of their boundaries about what's important to them and how to stand up for themselves. So, we want to do things in a way that promote respect for everybody. And sometimes you may have to compromise, but we don't want to do it so that one person is suffering, if they don't have the right boundaries to advocate for themselves. And just have fun, laugh, give gratitude for what you have. You may be having a rough day, but hopefully you can see something positive in that day and the other person. Everybody wants to be seen and heard and respected. We do, and our kids do, and our spouses do. So if we keep that in mind, that goes a long way. And then some things are maybe things that I know I wasn't, used to, about having deep breaths, having um, different ways to relate, kind of opening up yourself and being vulnerable with your partner. And I think that can be helpful as well. And then kind of understanding yourself and your spouse, what drives them, what's their personality, and what are some of the love languages that they prefer. So on the next slide, which we'll talk about now, there's some ways to consider that. So some of you may have heard about a book called The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. And there's also different editions of this that are for kids with special needs. There was one that I learned about and read as part of a special needs moms group that was very revealing, because even though our children may or may not be verbal, but you can tell by observation the way they like to receive and show emotion and love. And so the 5 love languages, if you're not familiar with them, the first one is acts of service. So for instance, my dad every morning would bring my mom a cup of coffee in bed. So that's, he never verbalized, I love you. I never heard them say that to each other, but you could see from what he was doing that they had a really, nice relationship and were definitely loving and respectful of each other. Sometimes these are things that we do and sometimes things that we want to receive. So there's 2 ways to look at it. The receiving gifts is important for some people. They like to receive flowers, candy, whatever it might be. And some people, like my sister, be like, why are you giving me flowers? That's like a waste of money and time, right? They're just going to die. So it just really depends on, what's important to you. Some people like giving gifts. And if you have somebody who doesn't really like gifts, that becomes an issue. So they definitely, look at both sides of that too. Quality time. Some people just like, hanging out with somebody, spending time with them, sitting, watching, TV together, whatever it might be. That to them, that's more important than any, fancy trips or gifts or anything else. So keep that in mind as well. Words of affirmation. Some people, that's important too, to hear those words and to give those words. So telling somebody, you're doing a good job. So for instance, my son, he's not very verbal. He'll always tell himself, good job. So he wants to hear that. So that's the way he expresses that. And physical touch is important. May not be, something, extra R-rated. It could just be a hug, or it could be, holding hands. My other son will say, Mommy, can I have a hug? So, what I learned through doing the exercise, and there's surveys that you can do to kind of figure out your love language, that they're on the 5 languages, love languages, website in the book, are different questionnaires that you answer and kind of figure out which one you might be and your partner might be and that your kids might be as well. So sometimes we learn things about ourselves that we didn't really realize. We talked about self-care a little bit. So definitely know that you're important. And if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of others. So we definitely want to make time, whether it's a little bit in the day or planning something big for ourselves. I used to think self-care just meant going to the salon and things like that, which wasn't a big thing for me. But I've learned it could be just taking a walk around the block, having a quiet moment, taking time for gratitude, whatever it is that helps you feel better in the day and gets you through the day.
For me, it's chocolate.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. And then, but a lot of times, we've done all these things. What if our marriage is still struggling? What do we do? And even though this was a marriage presentation, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about things that we can do if we are having still some trouble. And so if you've done all these things and you're at a point where you're trying to decide whether to stay in your marriage or make a change, definitely think about what it's going to mean for you and for your family. It could be so many different things to think about, and so maybe you can get ideas of support from family of friends who maybe have gone through difficult times in their marriage and made it work, or maybe ones that have gone through divorce to see what kind of resources and help and experience they've had. I would say, though, focus on those that have a positive outlook on life. You don't want people bringing you down and giving it a worst case scenario. We would definitely want to try to make things work, especially like if you have a therapist you can go to. Sometimes you can go just for yourself to talk about some of these things, or maybe there's couples therapy, or maybe have each of you go to a separate therapist. So there's different ways you can do it. Both people have to be willing to do that, though, together. And you may have one party is like, no, I've already given up, or I'm not interested, and you can't make it happen, right? People have to both be involved and be committed to making it work. If not, it's not going to happen. Some people who are involved in their church, you can go to your minister, rabbi, whatever it is, to talk about some of the issues you may be facing and looking at things in a different way. There's a program called Divorce Care that's sponsored by different churches. It's not heavily religious, but it does have a religious like workbook and things to think about. And that's kind of a good way to think about if divorce is the right thing and how to get through that in a positive fashion. Of course, as a certified divorce coach like myself, who are there not just to talk about divorce, but really help you discuss your situation, help you explore, is this the right decision for me or not? You'll want to work with a financial professional who can show you, what would it look like if you did choose to get divorced? How are you going to look at the expenses you have, your child's expenses, and so on. These are things that definitely we look at in the divorce process through a team effort, but definitely you want to have a realistic idea of what it would take to go through divorce and what life would look like afterwards. Not that you can't discuss ways in your process to make it work, but know that there's people who specialize in that, not just special needs financial planning, but also there's somebody called a CDFA, which is a Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, that can also help support you in making those kind of decisions. And also family law attorney is very important. You can just go out for a consultation with them, not that you have to act on it right away, but they're there to support you legally. And what I'll say is divorce is my job is to help take the emotion out of it and of the process and make it kind of like a project-based approach, because in effect, at the end of the day, divorce is a legal and financial transaction. And so we have to think of it that way to be able to get through it without all the emotion, which we're going to have anyway, but the conflict and then dragging it on and making it a big legal battle that just drains everybody of time and energy and money, frankly, as well. And so what if you've done these things, you've worked, you've spent a lot of time thinking about it, trying to make it work, and it's not meant to be. And sometimes that happens, and there's no judgment, right? It's not like makes you a bad person or that you failed. That's not the case at all. You did your best, but this marriage, wasn't meant to be. And so I know when I was first thinking about it or going through it, I thought, it's kind of taboo. What's my family going to say? But I had nothing but support from everybody I knew, because they knew me and they knew my situation and knew that I wouldn't do anything that's going to intentionally make life difficult for me or my kids. So yeah, you definitely want to do what's going to be right and make it work. So you want to make it remain as amicable as you can with your soon-to-be ex-spouse, or if you're divorced, with your ex-spouse, because the more conflict there is, the more difficult your situation is going to be. And then parenting, and then for your kids, they're gonna see that stress. So you're going to be what they call co-parents for life with a child with a disability. It's not like one day they're 18 and they're gone. We had a conversation earlier about being empty nesters. That may or may not be the case for us. So we're going to have to continue to communicate with the other parent on a day-to-day or whatever basis is going to be your situation. Some people live in the same town, some do not. For those that don't get along, though, there's a different method called parallel parenting, where you're kind of keeping things a little bit more distant, but still working together to make sure the child's needs are met. But the important thing, especially when you have a child with a disability, is supporting that child through the transition. There's different ways to do that. We don't want them to be shocked or surprised or have a hard time through this process. And there's ways that you can do things to explain to them what's happening in a kind and gentle fashion. I did something called a social story, and I have a YouTube video I did on that, and I think Michelle's going to put my information in the chat. You're welcome to look at that or reach out to me. I'll be able to help you. But we want to support our kids as we go through any change or transition in their lives and something new, a new experience. Kind of explain to them what's going to happen so that they can feel assured and have less anxiety about where they're going to be, what's happening to my family, and kind of what comes next. And so with that, divorce can be a new beginning for all of us. It's not an end necessarily to everything as we thought it would be, but it can be a new beginning. You look at me, I created a whole new career out of this. I had been a stay-at-home mom for 20 years after working before I had kids. And so I'm back now taking all my experiences and my skills from before marriage, during marriage, and after to be able to help other people. And so find yourself a new purpose, and new exciting things that you can do for yourself and for your family. We talked about being role models for our kids. We want to show that we can get through this in a positive way, and so that they can take those skills and that approach in life as well. And so one thing I will say as well is that we want to work with professional experience in special needs, whether it's a financial person, a divorce coach, a lawyer, because there's so many intricacies and things we want to consider that maybe people who haven't had that experience won't know to share and help you along that path. And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, to be able to help people based on the challenges I went through, to make sure that people don't fall in the same pitfalls and have a way to navigate the overwhelm and complexities that is involved in a special needs divorce, so that we can have the best result for our children. And so in addition to being a certified special needs divorce coach, which by the way, now I help inspire a certification for that, and I'm an instructor in that as well. I'm also a transition and a life coach, mediator, parenting coordinator, and also an arbitrator. Did that training recently as well after this slide was made. And so what those last ones mean is that as a mediator and parenting coordinator, I can actually work with both parents to have discussions, see what's going to work for them, get them to those next steps, have them think about the child first in divorce, as opposed to all the other typical things we might normally try to fight about and argue about and make it complicated in divorce. And so sometimes even after divorce, people need someone to maybe to help them, with the parenting issues and so on. And so sometimes parenting coordination is court mandated. Sometimes it's just be an optional thing that you do. It's like, I need help communicating better with my ex-partner. We weren't getting along before marriage, and we're not getting along after marriage. Can someone help us? And that's what I'm there to do. So as a coach, I'm here really supporting one parent, but as a neutral third party, I can definitely help people have discussions and come to agreements there, either with or without the help of lawyers there. I mean, definitely, we want to bring a lawyer in for all the legal aspects, but I'm here to help people kind of think about things before you go to lawyers, or even during that process. So I'm here before, during, and after divorce, because as much as we can do beforehand, think about things clearly, we're going to save a lot of time, money, and effort, billable hours with our lawyers and stuff. And yeah, so I have lots of information I share on social media. I'm involved in many events. I do lots of podcasts. So definitely, reach out to me if I can support you in any way. I've got World Autism Summit coming up. I do all kinds of things. There's some resource fairs coming up, through the school districts and otherwise. So definitely the information is there. All these special needs resources like Consolidated Planning Group and so on. Everybody's there at these events to share information with you and let you know that you're not alone, that there is help on this journey of being a parent of a child with special needs, and to find ways for you to grow and support yourself as well. And that QR code is for just to my website, a little contact form. If you want to reach out to me, you're welcome to do so there.
Yeah,
So
and you have LinkedIn and TikTok and YouTube channel and Instagram. All of this, all of the links for her are in the chat box. So you can go to her website, her Facebook page, any place and go reach out to Mary Ann for help on all of these different issues and questions that you and your family might have.
yeah, so I hope that was helpful. If there's any questions, feel free to put them in the chat.
Yeah, I
So
haven't really seen any questions come through yet. This was very informative. Yes, you always do such a great job, Marianne. And I look forward, whenever we go to those in-person events, resource fairs and whatnot, I always know I get to see you, so I enjoy that.
love it.
So I hope you've all enjoyed this webinar. I'm just going to wrap things up. We do webinars 2-3 times a week here at Consolidated Planning Group, and we always record them and put them on our YouTube channel. But this is just a quick list of things to keep on your radar as you're thinking about planning for the future for yourself and your child. Think about getting together a comprehensive special needs care plan, the future care costs that you might be expecting. Make sure you're on the Texas waiver interest lists. Those lists can be 20 years old to get services. 20 years long to get services here in Texas. So make sure you're on that list. There's SSI and SSDI, Medicaid and Medicare. What are the differences in those and when should you apply? We can help you understand and sign up for an ABLE account. We often talk to attorneys about things like beneficiary designations and your special needs trust and the fact that you might need guardianship or some alternative to guardianship. We do panel webinars where we might have a group of representatives from 6 or 7 different residential communities. You can check those all out. Anyway, these are some of the things that we do at Consolidated Planning Group, some of the things that we can help you understand. This link right here will take you to our website. We have an events tab there where you can register for upcoming webinars. And then that way, even if you can't make it live during this 12 to 1 time period, you would be registered and you would receive the slides and the link to the recording afterwards, plus reminders beforehand so that you don't forget to show up if you can. This is our entire team. Again, I mentioned that we are just outside of Houston in the Sugar Land area. We work all across Texas and all across the United States. We have 4 financial advisors and we have 5 staff members who really help with all the planning and paperwork and behind the scenes action. We're members of the Academy of Special Needs Planners, National Social Security Advisors, and we have a chartered special needs consultant on staff as well. So as you look at these smiling faces, please remember that we will be reaching out to you to see if you want to schedule your free consultation. This is on Zoom, usually between 30 to 45 minutes. Our goal is to answer your questions first. Whatever questions that you might have about planning for financial resources for the future, thinking about benefits, thinking about retirement, all of those different kinds of things, and making sure that your money is in the right places so that it does not jeopardize your benefits. We can help you with that. Go ahead and use the QR code if you would like to schedule your own consultation on our calendar, or you can call the office or email the office, or call or email me. And I can even set that up for you. But anyway, if you have any questions, we're here to help you. We'll learn about your family and your needs, answer your questions, and then go into how we can help, what we charge, and how we work. And there's my email address, just in case anybody wants to reach out to me personally. There's a question about CEU. Nicole, that one might be for you if you're offering a CEU certificate for this. Or Marianne.
No, we're not here at CIC, not for this one.
No, we don't offer continuing ed certificates either. We might be able to get you a certificate of attendance, but that's about the best we can do. Finally, our YouTube channel and Instagram, podcast, and Facebook are all linked down there. So when you receive these slides later, you can click straight through to our YouTube channel or go follow us on any of our social media. Again, I really appreciate all of you for being here today. Marianne, thank you for all this great information. And Nicole, thank you for helping spread the word about us and about these webinars. If anybody has any questions that we didn't get to today, please reach out to us personally. We look forward to helping you. And have a great week, everybody. Thank you so much.